Chocolat, a film with one of the most misleading posters I've ever seen. I suspect it had to do with controversial actor Johnny Depp's booming popularity in the 1990s to early 2000s, and the explosion of romantic films during that time. They had to market a tale about chocolate bringing people together in some enticing fashion, right? Ironically, the romance is a subplot, one that could have easily been omitted as it had no bearing on the storyline. No matter, I'm confident that a respectable number of viewers who came for spice and delight between Depp and actress Juliette Binoche stayed for the film's real meat and potatoes. Adapted from Joanne Harris's eponymous 1999 novel and directed by Lasse Hallström, Chocolat is a dramedy led by Binoche's character, Vianne Rocher, a French vagabond who settles in a conservative village with her daughter Anouk to helm a chocolaterie. Within virtually any other context, this wouldn't be a big deal. But to devout Christians in the area who are observing Lent, a time for fasting and abstaining in general, our two travelers couldn't have picked a worse time to open up a shop. Although the bulk of the outrage is concocted by Mayor Paul de Renault, who sees Vianne's chocolates, as well as her penchant for nurturing communities, tolerance, and free thinking, as unholy temptations that must be eliminated immediately. Needless to say, Vianne spends the film firmly standing by her convictions, while simultaneously trying to extend an olive branch to Renault. The fact is, we don't have many food-centric stories in the mainstream. It can be hard to craft one that incorporates profound, meaningful, or relevant themes without it coming across as blatant long-form advertising. So to see Vianne's story weave different forms of love and empowerment into a shared fondness for chocolate among the characters is impressive considering its age, relatively speaking. As we know, society likes to act as though these aren't completely new ideas. Though that's its own conversation altogether. Vianne is an example of a well-written static character, who represents the realistic shift away from the popular notion that feministic narratives are concerned with the protagonist saving other characters and imposing her own beliefs, which of course come from the creators, or at least their perception of the collective mindset, onto them. Instead, she positions herself as a collaborator who encourages others to explore their values while still holding to her own from beginning to end. Echoing what I said in my What a Gal entry for Jess Bamra, Vianne's journey begins at home with Anouk. It's clear that the two love each other dearly and enjoy a healthy, fulfilling mother-daughter relationship that encourages Anouk to form her own identity and opinions, regardless of whether or not there is a husbandly and fatherly presence, respectively, in their lives. This suggests to us, especially since she never really discusses Anouk's father, that Vianne is neither scorned nor regretful that her family is not a nuclear one. She certainly doesn't ask to be seen as a strong woman for raising Anouk by herself either. We don't want it in our fiction, and we definitely don't want it in our world. Single mothers should not be pressured or seen as an anomaly by the patriarchy, whether it's to be subservient and benefit someone in some way, or to validate other people for conforming to the ideals of a so-called perfect family. But they also shouldn't feel superior or like they're owed something. Empathy and understanding while still prioritizing one's own is how reciprocal respect is built so that no one is left feeling disempowered, alienated, or antagonized. Vianne is the epitome of this. While she acknowledges and even welcomes other people's perspectives, she expects the same of them. It's especially evident in her response to the idea that how a woman dresses supposedly says something about her character. Vianne is having none of it, and keeps on flaunting her beauty. She's similar to Bolbert's Raimunda, another character I covered on What a Gal, in that they're single mothers who are allowed to be center stage with their charms, creativity, and freedom, none of which delegitimizes their maternal role. This is a good place to address her romance with Depp's character, Ru, because his role doesn't bear any sort of impact on her as a mother, or really as a woman character. Rather, it enriches her characterization as an individual, even though it does nothing for the story itself. They fall in love and have natural chemistry, but they also respect and support each other's individuality. Thus, when they make choices that don't necessarily involve one another in their lives, they accept whatever is to come from that. They value their time together and cherish it as they pursue their own goals without resenting or feeling the need to prove something to the other. This sort of dynamic tends to be common in Japanese media, especially shonen and seinen from what I've seen, whereby two characters who are confident in their feelings for one another don't feel the need to validate them through some form of domestication, and trust that if something is meant to happen, then it will in its own time, as they each forge their own path in life. That happens here with Vianne and Ru, deconstructing the expectation that she'll compel him to raise a nuke with her or fill a supposed void in her heart. Vianne derives different types of love from the community she's cultivated around her, and recognizes their importance to her well-being too. It's a mature, refreshing, and honestly healthy take on what relationships could realistically be like. Another one of Vianne's important relationships in the film is with Josephine, a woman who is shunned by the townsfolk for the erratic behavior she exhibits as a result of domestic abuse. Vianne and Josephine's friendship deconstructs the harmful implications of the crazy woman trope, fighting against such patriarchal attitudes through sisterhood and free expression. While Renaud isn't a villain, and I'll come back to this point soon, we see how his upholding of these attitudes results in the normalization of domestic abuse, even if it's not necessarily his intent, turning Josephine's husband into an actual villain from whom she and Vianne must save each other. Vianne notes the love, ingenuity, and fortitude Josephine possesses despite her trauma. By employing her at her chocolaterie, where she puts her skills to the sweetest test of chocolate making, Josephine becomes instrumental in building a much happier and fulfilled town for all. It is opportunity creation and enablement, rather than any sort of conditioning that ensures there will be support. And finally, perhaps the most striking of Vianne's relationships is the one with Renaud, especially since it goes through the biggest change throughout the film. Now, going back to what I mentioned earlier, Renaud is not a villain. Adding to this, Vianne is not a hero who saves the town from him. When he is at his lowest point, she does not ridicule him. Understanding that this is a man who is processing his vulnerability for the first time ever, she gives him his space to do so and lets him into their new little world when he's ready. His speech about inclusion at the end, and the countless voices that accompany it, seals the deal. It was never Vianne's goal to rid the town of Renaud due to their conflict, but to make him feel accepted and help himself heal from the damage he's caused himself and others through toxic masculinity. The fact that she could recognize he isn't actually a bad person is commendable, showing how gray the situation truly is. The point of Chocolat is not to defeat someone else to make yourself feel more superior and to prioritize your ideas over someone else's. Two concepts that seem to be common in Western feminist media. Hence why something like Mulan 2, for example, doesn't work as a film compared to its predecessor. Rather, Chocolat asks us to understand our own needs and feelings in tandem with those around us so that we can reach a resolution together. This means exploring compromises while ensuring everyone feels safe and validated, and accepting that the patriarchy isn't benefiting any of us, not even those of us who've convinced ourselves that it provides power and protection from everything that harms us. I'm here, should you wish to discuss that further.